Hi, I'm Cyaneink, and today we have a part 2 in my organization series, and we have part 3 coming, so remember to subscribe so you will get a notification when that is up. And today I'm talking about how to organize stuff, and first and most important rule is that everything has to have a place. And usually people get that, but I literally mean everything. Usual items that often doesn't have a place are pencil cases because they are often on the go, but my pencil case spot is here. Why it's here? Because this is secretary desk. I have like here the place where it like folds up, so my pencil case can sit there. And same goes with the sketchbooks. They are on top of my desk. And there's also all the ongoing sketchbook. Also, my planner is here because it's an item that goes into my bag and sometimes here. So it likes sometimes there and sometimes not. So I think those are the items that often generate the clutter. Other thing, if you work a lot with the colored pencils, I rarely do, but if you work a lot, you might have like jar like this, which you keep the pencils if you like stop the working and you want to collect all the pencils on your table that are in use into one bin. That might be really helpful if you have a lot of colored pencil work. Other things that I feel often are not having place, water bucket, racks. I store my racks and water buckets in the drawer because they are quite small. I also have this drawer, which is a place I put things that doesn't have a place or are just temporary in my workspace. For example, I have a bunch of wrappers from one of the paints. I need to do the color chart. I didn't do that immediately, so I put them there, so I know they are like kind of temporary item and they will go with the color chart later. Same, there's like post stamps and stuff like that. Also my paper which I use for testing. Also you can have a place for your work that is still in progress. Mine are stored in the drawer, which is underneath the desk. It's not so easy to access, but because I tend to work flat, these are quite easy to get out of here. More bulkier items are not so good, since this is like not so good place to store them. But I think those are the items that are really important to have place. They are often overlooked and they often generate clutter. And for you, you can like see when your workspace gets really cluttered, just look what items are on the table, what are like laying here, so you will know that which items you need to place to have so you can keep them clean. Next, I'm talking about how I create my storage space. This may sound a bit complicated, but there's like a really genius way to like know where you can store your stuff. I have this shelving here. I pulled it from myself. I have like some of the wooden boxes. They are chipped together with the zip tie, so it's really sturdy. And how I like create my storage is how many actions it takes me to access the item. Like this one. It's like my best like art grade because it's just taking the item out. Same goes with the pencils. I can take individual items out without moving anything. That's really good. If you have item you use often, try to have them in the way that you don't need to move other items when you grab them. Also my watercolor palettes are here because I use them often. Same with my most of them used brushes, and my palette is there as well. Why these are top of each other? Because when I do the watercolors, I take the brush and now my watercolor palette is right there. I never use watercolors without my brushes, so they kind of like go together. But with the drawers, it's one action and then access the items. It really depends, like if you have a drawer that has like, it's like one action, second action. So this is going to be not so good place to store stuff because it takes two actions. Even if they're small, but I still want to count them. And other not so good places for me is actually under my desk. This one I grade on my poorest grade because it's impossible to open. You see that the like underside of the desk is here, so I cannot even open this one when the desk is open, so I need to close it and open it. I actually store my fountain pen now here. This one is not so good either because even if I can open it, it's also like two hands. there's not so easy to take stuff out. You see, there's not that much of the space, and I cannot see there very well. So I store my work in progress pieces there and some of the papers. These are a little bit better, so they are, I say it's one action if I'm like this, but usually I sit on my desk. So that means I have to get out of the chair, pull the drawer, which is like second action, and then also I count as the action when I like take this out, because I can't take individual tubes out of here unless I open the lid. So I have to take this out, put it on the table, and then open it. So it's like 4 actions, but it's gouache, so I don't use gouache that often. Watercolor tubes, they are on the lidless box, so I can just take this out. But I rarely use them, so I'm like happy that they can take more actions than like stuff in my setting, because I rarely use those. This whole shelving unit is actually 2 actions, because I need to get up off my chair, I need to walk here. And here I store stuff that I rarely use and stuff that when I'm like using, I need to be more mindful. They are not used on like in like moment. Like with the pens, if I'm sketching, I suddenly may think, oh, I want to use brush pen, and I grab that. But I think I never have like, oh, I want to use acrylics. Because acrylic takes more time to set up, so I think here it's worthwhile to store them here, because in any case I will use more time to prepare my supplies, so I can just store them here. And all of these are in the boxes, and that is because if I start to do acrylics, I just can go and grab one of these boxes, and that's one action. I don't need to like gather all the palettes and gather all the like supports and tubes individually. That's like really tiresome stuff and takes a lot of time. So that's why I store them in the boxes, so I can take them all in one go. And same goes with my pyrography machine. Everything is here. Well, wood pieces are there, but everything I need for pyrography is there. I take this whole box to my desk and then do pyrography. And then is that store stuff that use together. Like here I have everything in one box, what I use for doing Magic the Gathering card art alteration. I also store the cards here, because I always use them with the golden opens. I store all of them here. Also the palettes are here. Brushes are on different place, because I use those with the multiple mediums, but here's everything that I use only for Magic the Gathering card art alterations. And same goes with this one. Only stuff that is meant for pyrography. And they go together, so they are stored together. You already see how I store my watercolor brushes and my watercolor palettes. They are close together. And here with the pens and pencils, I have this box, which has all the black inking tools I have, because if I ink with the black, I'm not happy with the one pen. I often need the other pen to like support it, like a finer tip or something like that for the finer details. I store all of them together, because these are items I often don't use together. I use multiple black things for inking. I have similar thing on the colored pencils, colored brush pens. They're also same pin, even if I often don't use them together. That is some use case I might do, like I'm do the sketch and then I'm looking color for the inking, and I might ink in multiple colors. Another example, white pens. I have white colored pencils here, white gel pens and Poscas, because I tend to do highlights with these. I keep them together because I use them same stage in the drawing, and I use them like for usually on the same artwork. In this bin I have all my journal supplies, which I use together, so they are stored together here. And how these are stored, I have like underneath box there, because I want to this work, like I take it out and everything is accessible here, because these ones are not falling. There's a small box there, and there's even a smaller box underneath, which I rather use. But I want to use these kind, so they are accessible with the one action. I don't need to like dig through them. Here's also stamping. All the stamping stuff is here, because I use them together. I never use ink with anything else than stamps, so that makes sense to store them together. Also, I cannot use inking these like rubber stamps without the ink, so of course I store them here. Next thing is a little bit different. And you can see here, I had to move these brushes away because these are going to be cleaned. You can see I have here acrylics and also here is acrylics. So this one has acrylics. Why they are not in one bin and there are 3 different bins? The reason is very simple. Because I use these only with the Magic the Gathering cards. I don't use these on other paintings. These are special colors. If I'm using this painting, I'm using only one of these or maybe 2, but never all of them. So I think it makes more sense to store them here because they are special colors and I don't want them to clutter my like regular acrylic drawer because they would take so much space that it would be really hard to find here the color I want, and I would like accidentally grab something like fluorescent green and that is not even light fast. So that would really unfortunate. Or when I'm looking to white, I would actually grab like pearl-scanned color. So that's why I recommend storing special colors, pearl-scanned colors, neon colors, glow-in-the-dark colors, anything that is not normal color on their own bin, because usually don't use that much of these in the painting, and then when you do, you can take the one special color out of the box and it's not like cluttering the main box. Similar thing with the inks. I have more special inks than normal inks. So I have special inks here, all the neons and pearl-scanned are here, which I use for mainly inking dyes, sometimes on the paintings. And here are all the regular inks. So these I use when I'm doing artworks. And that works really well because then I don't need to go through and try to find the one green that is normal green and not like fluorescent or pearl-scanned or anything like that. It makes more sense and it also saves space because I have quite a lot of these inks. Same thing can be applied to the watercolors. I store my watercolors in the palette so they are all in the same like slot. But if you have a lot of watercolors, it might make sense to have pearl-scanned and effect watercolors stored in their own place than where your regular paints are. Same with the pencils. I have my regular colored pencils here, and then on this black roll I have the Derwent Naturals, I think. So they are stored a little bit differently because they are used in different cases. With the brushes, I have miniature brushes on their own pot because usually when I use normal brushes, I don't need the miniature brushes. I might use them details, I can grab them here because they are so easy to access here. But at the same time, I don't want the miniature brushes to get lost in the regular brushes. And I have quite a lot of these items, so they would be really hard to find if they all would be in the one pot. And that's also what you should consider. If you have some medium you have a lot, like I have watercolors, it might be more sense to split up the storage. But you can also store them like having artist grade and student grade if you have 2 of those. Most of my stuff are artist grade, so that doesn't make sense in my case. But some cases that might, if you do like tutorials for beginners and you use the student grade, then you might have the student grade pile for those and then artist grade pile when you do the like finished artwork. Then the last topic before the bonus one, I'm talking about specifically like when you use pen jar and when using like box. And how it goes in my case is that pens I have in pen jar are pens that I want to access individually. Like when I know I want to like, let's say green brush pen, I can grab it here. But pens I store in the boxes are usually colored pencils because when I'm using colored pencils, I usually need to access multiple colored pencils. With the boxes, the problem is you cannot access the individual pen if it's down underneath other ones. But it takes less space. This one takes quite a bit of the like the vertical space. This one, not so much. Only a little bit of the horizontal, and it is like really good way to store if you have only a little space. Of course, it would mean when I want to take this out, I need to pick all the pens that I want to use. But with the colored pencils, that's usually this process. Similarly, you can use, I have here my graphite pencils. And since I have so few of these, I can actually access all of them even if they are in the box. And they take very little space on my shelf. And I'm using this space because this one is a bit awkward because I have the drawer here where I also have some of the pens. I cannot have pen pots on here. It's too like, it doesn't have enough height. So that's why I store here the pens that have like are in the boxes. And if you are storing brushes, my watercolor brushes are in this wooden box. This is meant for brushes. It has this foam here, so when I close this, I always watch that there's no brush resting on this end. And when I close this one, the foam actually pushes the brushes, so they are not never stored like the... Because if you have them stored like this one, it may damage the tip. So it's important to have brushes stored in the way that the tip are not touching anything. And this one is like, I got this from Jackson's a while back. It's like meant for brushes. If you don't have a brush boxes or you have a lot of brushes, you can use jars. But again, you can see that this jar is taking quite a bit of space. Also, I need a little bit extra space to take the jar out. But in my case, I store them on top shelf. So there's like infinite amount of space on top of them. Rolls are also a good way to store stuff, especially pens and pencils. If you want to have them taking more like horizontal space and less vertical space, but you want to still be able to get all of them at the same time. If you are having them rolls, you can have them like open like this and you can see all of the colors what's in the roll, and you can stack rolls on top of each other so you can see end of the pen. So it's like really easy to access all of them. But of course it may make that you have this one extra action when you're putting it on the storage, which is like rolling them back up. But here you can see that they take very little space here. Also with the colored pencils I like that, because as you can see I had them on all in the like chromatic order. So they keep the order better if they're on the rolls. Also you can use tins. I think I have one tin here, which has gray colored pencils. Again, this has very little vertical space, but it takes quite a bit of the like desk space. That's why I don't like storing my pens in tins, because this would mean I don't have, if you have like really shallow shelving, you can use these like shelve them individually, but usually that are not accessible many of the people. So these need to be stored on top of each other, and then it comes to like really hard to find the one tin you want, because they are often really similar looking ones. Other way you can have the pens are in their own case, like I have my Copics here, and it keeps the organization as well. So, but again, this one can be stored either upright or horizontal, which I like. It's really like versatile for storage, but at the same time I feel I like pencil pots more because they are much easier to access. With this one I have to take it out of the shelf, take the cap out, so if I want to access the pens inside. And lastly, why I don't like storing my brushes in the boxes. Here are my old brushes that need some cleaning, and they are stored in this box, and long-handled brush doesn't even fit that well. But even if I store them in the box and I try to not move this box too much, I can see that there's this one small brush that has been moved touching on the box side, and that may damage the brush head. So brushes are always better stored in the jars or in the like proper brush boxes, so they are not getting damaged. This one is not so good way to store them, but it's like my dirty brush drawer. I plan to wash them all out and then put them back to the jars. I have even more storage solutions here for brushes. This one has my brushes I don't use that often, and I use them. This is like folder type of soft folder from Jackson's, and you can prop it up like this. Why I don't like these, why I prefer actually jars over these ones, is that this is not easy to accessible. I need to open the zipper, open the whole case. I can see all the brushes in one glance, but the problem is this again takes so much space. This you could basically store it upright, but I don't have that kind of space available because this is so like tall. So I need to store it in horizontally, and it takes quite a bit of space, and it doesn't fit that many brushes. Like you can see here on this side I have these 7 brushes, and they almost take everything. Of course I have one, but look how much space they take. They take quite a bit of space in this case. So also case there's this much space that is wasted. So it's like not so economical in the space wise to store brushes. And because I'm like showing all the things, I will show why I don't like pencil cases. Even if they are really handy if you take pens with you, they have same problem as the boxes, that the pens are on top of each other, hard to access the individual pen. Even if my pencil case has this kind of flap, which I use for my most used pens, mainly fountain pens and my drafting pencil, it is still a bit hard to find the proper pen you are looking for in this like main compartment. So I think they are great for on the go, but if you have possible to store them in the boxes or jars, so it's like great on the go, but it's better to have them in the jars if you are not traveling with them. Now for the special extra tips, which are all fountain pen related stuff. I store my fountain pens horizontally. I have noticed that this is the best way to keep the feet wet, and also if I store them upright like this one, the nib is on this end, often the ink will dry up the feet because all the ink goes to the reservoir. If I store them this way, some of the pens may have prone to leak. So horizontal has been best for me and for my pens. I store here all of the inked pens, and all the non-inked pens are on this drawer. And why I have it that way, this drawer is really hard to access, is that because I rarely get urge to ink pen in like suddenly. It's often like I have cleaned one pen and I'm like choosing the ink is process, so I'm fine my pens being a little bit hard to access. But with this one, when I open this drawer, it has like all of my fountain pens and I can access all of them at the same time. And also for save my sanity, when I have a fountain pen that is dry up or I use all the ink, I put it in the cleaning bin. I have one pen pot that I use for fountain pens that need to be cleaned. And that helps me not to picking of those fountain pens that have already dried up and need cleaning. Next, speaking about the inks. Here's all of my fountain pen inks. On the back there, I have some of the lesser used fountain pen stuff, like my broken vintage fountain pens and some of the repair supplies, because those I really need like on short notice. I usually be able to take them out there. But for the inks, I like to. They are really important to store in the dark place. Why? Because fountain pen ink is dye based. Like some of the boxes, most of the bottles are see-through and light can pass this. And when you have UV light reacting with the dye, it may lose, if it's not light fast, like most of the fountain pen ink is not light fast, it will lose its color. So that's why I keep it in the dark place. And for extra protection, they are even their own containers in the dark drawer. Even if it would look really pretty to have all of these nice looking bottles in the shelving, don't do that, especially if your workspace is in really shiny space. Like mine is, like I have a soft facing window right next to me and it's really bright here. So no, I store all of them in the boxes in the dark drawer. You could either use them and if you want to use open shelving, then store them in their boxes they came in, because these are like this protect them from the light, UV light, because that will fade the ink quite fast. It can also cause ink other issues, like I don't have the ink anymore, but one of my ink went really clumpy and really viscous, and I think that was what caused that, is that ink hit a lot of my desk, and I think the water in the ink evaporated and changed the ink consistency. So always store your fountain pen inks in the drawer in the dark. I think many of the fountain pen ink manufacturers actually recommend that. Same for the other fountain pen stuff I have. I have all of my samples in one box, so I can take this box out of here and just select what color I want. And back here I have of the cartridges and also the loop. Those are some of my fountain pens use cartridges, and I don't have converters or everything. Also have converters here. They are all in the one box. If you have a lot of converters, or you have hard time to remember which converter is for which pen, use smaller boxes and label them. But I don't have a problem to remember them, so they are all there. Bulb syringes. I have quite many of them, but I store them all in the same jar. I just access the one I need. There's more of those cartridges, and my cartridges are, I like to keep them in the way that I can see the color, like here. This one I don't store this way, because I want to see that it's gray. This one is green, and these are Kaweco cartridges. This one has gray, it's on that dot. So I always try to be mindful how I store stuff. There's other refills. And then I use these Kaweco boxes. And this one has empty cartridges, which I use sometimes instead of converter and fill them with the syringe. But I think these Kaweco cases are really good. They store stuff relatively like cartridges really well. And also stuff that doesn't take that much height. Here's also some of the spare cartridges I have. So I like save these up and use them for the storage. Especially because they are dark and they are metal, so they are stored in the dark. Same goes with the cartridges, store them in their own boxes. Even if it's really tempted to store them like clear see-through jars, don't do that, because cartridges have even less ink capacity than the bottles, so the ink may actually spoil faster if it's exposed to the UV light. Also, cartridges are something that have, because you are like puncturing the small ball on the end, it sometimes, if you store them improperly, that can really easily like come loose when you don't mean that, and you may get some like inky mess, and I'm sure nobody wants that.